we're bringing out in the open something you've probably never heard about. Soldiers who are risking their lives can gamble and lose everything without ever leaving their military base. The Pentagon runs a casino operation right on overseas bases, raking in more than $100 million a year. In a special CNN investigation, Drew Griffin reveals the tragedy of an Army helicopter pilot trapped by a gambling addiction that turned deadly.
She never saw it coming. Carrie Walsh's husband was an Apache helicopter pilot for the Army. But years ago, Aaron Walsh started playing the slot machines on military posts. He became a gambling addict. At 34, with his life in a tailspin, Aaron Walsh walked into the Maine woods, put a gun to his head, and killed himself.
The military has this culture of taking care of their own, but it seems like when it comes to this, they just, they profited from his addiction and then threw him away.
The military has operated slot machines at overseas posts since the 1980s. The Army alone has 3,000 of them, and they bring $130 million in revenue every year. CNN could not get updated figures from the Air Force or Navy, which run their own gaming operations. The Department of Defense would not allow CNN to take any pictures of them, but this photo appeared in Stars and Stripes just last year. After years of study, University of Illinois business professor John Kindt says the profits on these machines are huge.
It's all about the buck. And in our military, it should be about service to our country. It shouldn't be about exploiting our service personnel and putting their families and their children at risk.
The Pentagon's response to those charges have been by email and phone calls, no interviews. But we were told the Department of Defense needs the revenue from gambling operations to finance its overseas morale, welfare, and recreation programs. The slot machine money goes to things like bowling alleys and concerts, even to attract businesses like Starbucks to overseas posts, things that make living overseas more enjoyable for members of the military. Undersecretary of Defense Leslie Arsh, in a statement to CNN, said gambling on bases and posts provides a controlled alternative to unmonitored host nation gambling venues and offers a higher payment percentage, making it more entertainment-oriented than that found at typical casinos. Kindt says the idea of offering a safe or more gambling-friendly environment than what is found off-base is ridiculous.
And we don't need this. As a matter of fact, it hurts our military readiness. We're already seeing double the addiction rates in the military that we're seeing in the general population.
The Pentagon's own studies suggest the rate is similar to gambling among civilians. But Kindt says people drawn to military life are predisposed to becoming gambling addicts. They're generally young, they take risks, and they're trapped on lonely outposts in front of slot machines.
And he was top of his class in everything.
Aaron Walsh had already gone through one marriage and a suicide attempt after getting hooked on the slots at a post in Germany. After he married Carrie, they were sent to South Korea. Again, Aaron Walsh was lured by the slot machines on base. In 10 months, this father and husband tore through his military paychecks, maxed out his credit cards, even stopped eating to pay for his addiction. When he got into trouble for missing work and was grounded, Carrie Walsh had enough. She left Korea and Aaron. Kindt says the military's gambling operations were reviewed by Congress 7 years ago. What Congress got, he said, was this:
A 13-page report, a real whitewash by the military. Now, why would they be doing that? It's because there's something that they don't want the public to know. There's something that they don't want Congress to know.
The report dismissed the notion that the slot machines fed gambling addictions among the troops. The military did run an addictive gamblers treatment program at Camp Pendleton, and for a time Aaron Walsh was sent there, but he went AWOL. The New York Times profiled Aaron Walsh in the fall of 2005. He was alive, addicted to gambling, and homeless in Las Vegas. A few months after being forced to leave the military because of his addiction problems, Walsh turned up in Maine.
Yeah, he was really, really sad. He knew that he'd lost everything and that, he'd messed up. And he believed that he was going to get better.
And you thought he was going to get better?
Yeah.
But even rural Maine couldn't protect Aaron Walsh from his own addiction. Just an hour north here in Bangor, Maine was opening its first casino, the Hollywood Slots. And it's here, Carrie Walsh says, her husband would place his last bet, the one on his life.
I think he had been doing really well staying away from it, and then I think that he went and had like a gambling binge, and then realized what he had done and decided he wasn't ever going to get better.
Earlier this year, the Pentagon shut down its program at Camp Pendleton, the only inpatient facility for gambling addiction, leaving soldiers like Aaron Walsh to fend for themselves. Drew Griffin, CNN, Bangor, Maine.
Well, did you know that some of the nation's most successful CEOs have one thing in common? They're Mormon. Out in the open next, the Mormon values that really mean business. Could they also mean a Mormon in the White House? Later, a popular attention deficit drug's controversial side effect. Should it be prescribed for losing weight?
With its newfound strengths, we think the V8 Volvo S80 is a more formidable foe for the likes of the BMW 5
Steering,
Series,
braking,
Mercedes-Benz
cornering,
E-Class.
all high
One of the
order.
10 must-drives in 2000.